Welcome back to another Gielinor Games episode review from me, the host, producer, and editor of the show, Soup. Today we are tackling what is potentially the greatest episode in Gielinor Games history, and man, do I have some behind-the-scenes stories for you guys about what happens. I cannot wait. So buckle up, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We are so close to hitting 1 million subscribers, and of course, anything you want to know or comment about, I read through every single comment in the comment section, so feel free to leave anything you have to say down below. Also, make sure to stay tuned at the end of this video for some information about Gielinor Games Season 5 and how you may be able to help out. Alright, so Gielinor Games Season 4, Episode 4. This episode to me, and maybe to you guys as well, was the episode that really made people go like, oh my god, this is what this format was made for. This is the potential of how good this format could be. We had an amazing challenge. We had obviously an incredible voting section. We had a really great banning and a really intense outro and everything. I don't know. I could not wait to come out with this episode. One, after it was filmed, but two, just when I was editing this and when it was finally finished with the editing, I was like, oh my god, I can't wait for people to see what we came up with and put together. This episode starts off with 15 players. We are down 3 players already. Dino left the week before, and 15 players are now remaining in the game. And the prize pool, here's the crazy thing, the prize pool went up to 34.55 billion GP. Guys, it's episode 4. We're just now a third of the way through the season, and the prize pool has already surpassed last season's total prize pool. 34.55 bill. It was 30 bill for season 3. So the fact that we're coming into this season, an episode 4, and the prize pool is already this big is absolutely insane. Now, I do want to reiterate to all of you guys that the prize pool was not known to everybody when we're recording. Obviously, the prize pool is collected while the episodes are airing because I ask people to contribute. So none of the competitors know, going into any of these episodes, what the prize pool is going to be. But for you guys, the viewers, you see that the prize pool is already 34.5 bill. We have some, reactions in there, some fake reactions that I do in editing and everything. And this episode starts off great, just knowing that this new prize pool has already raised the bar, and it has already gotten huge to the point where it's surpassed last season. So it's absolutely nuts. Now we have 15 players. Now what I like to do is talk about the potential challenges when we have a certain number of players left. So coming into this one, we have 15 players left. So that kind of automatically knocks out duos. What I did do in season 3 was we had an odd number of players for the money-making challenge, but I did duos money-making, except there was a sabotage in that episode and Skill Specs had to do it by himself. But I told myself going into this season I was no longer going to do uneven teams for anything. So everybody knew coming into today that there wasn't going to be a duos challenge. So it was either going to be a team challenge or it was going to be a solo challenge. Now, it can't really be big team versus big team because, like I said, it doesn't work. 8 versus 7 is unfair. But what does work is small teams. So we could have 5 teams of 3. We could have 3 teams of 5, right? Because the 15 is divisible by that. Or we can have another solo challenge. Now, in the previous episode, we had done a big team versus big team. And in the first 2 episodes, we had done 2 solo challenges. So it really made sense going into today. And I think everybody kind of knew that there was going to be some type of small team challenge. And that's exactly what it does. I think for the first time, or what it was, I think for the first time, maybe ever that I can think of, we have an even number of players for a 3-person team. So we have 5 teams of 3 players, which I don't think we had ever done before. These teams coming into today were going to be competing in maybe the most popular challenge ever, Gielinor, RuneScape Hide and Seek. Every single time, ever since the airing of this episode in season 2, it is by far the highest rated. Every time I do the Google form where I get you guys to send me kind of like your thoughts on the season and your favorite challenges and bannings, I mean, Gielinor is always number 1, or at least always top 2. Ever since it's aired on season 2, 2, 3, 4 now, it's just always been towards the top. Something about hide and seek, people just really, really enjoy watching it. I love doing it. It's really fun to find the locations. I would say most of the competitors like doing it as well. It's really fun to try to race against other people to find a location, and it's really exciting to see a picture pop up and be like, oh, I know that. On the other hand, I know there are some people, I think Foe told his stream, actually, I was watching him, and he said that he hates hide and seek because 1, it's very stressful, and 2, for some reason, he's just not as good at it as a lot of the cracked players on the season. I know Settled likes it. That dude is absolutely monstrous at hide and seek, and I know some other people are as well, so they really welcome hide and seek because it's really fun for them. Welcome back to another Gielinor Games episode review from me, the host, producer, and editor of the show, Soup. Today we are tackling what is potentially the greatest episode in Gielinor Games history, and man, do I have some behind the scenes stories for you guys about what happens. I cannot wait. So buckle up, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. We are so close to hitting 1 million subscribers, and of course, anything you want to know or comment about, I read through every single comment in the comment section, so feel free to leave anything you have to say down below. Also, make sure to stay tuned at the end of this video for some information about Gielinor Games Season 5 and how you may be able to help out. Alright, so Gielinor Games Season 4, Episode 4. This episode to me, and maybe to you guys as well, was the episode that really made people go like, oh my god, this is what this format was made for. This is the potential of how good this format could be. We had an amazing challenge. We had obviously an incredible voting section. We had a really great banning and a really intense outro and everything. I don't know. I could not wait to come out with this episode. One, I think the viewers like it so much, mainly because you guys are able to play along at home, right? There's a lovely little countdown timer, a nice little countdown sound effect to hype up the picture, and boom, it pops up, and you guys at home can either instantly recognize it and be like, oh, it's there, or you don't know it, and you now get to watch everybody else on the show figure it out alongside you, right? Which I think is just really fun too. If there's one thing I've learned from producing this show, it's that people who are watching really like to play along with the challenges at home. So any challenge that lets you guys kind of, like I've already said many times, play along at home and do it for yourself, automatically gets more engagement, has better viewer retention, and just does better overall. So that's kind of been something I've included every single season more and more, is just these challenges where I'm like, okay, are the viewers going to be able to understand and play along at home? And every time I do those challenges, they seem to do pretty well. So that's something I'm definitely going to continue to do. But as usual, we're coming into this episode of Hide and Seek with 5 locations. I did 7 in season 2, and fun fact, season 2 had 7 pictures, locations, because we did 5 to start, and then everybody was enjoying it so much that I said, oh, okay, let's do 2 more. And again, another thing with Hide and Seek is that everybody finds the locations so quickly. I always go into it so like cocky and thinking to myself, oh, I just found the perfect location. It's going to take them forever. And then they find it right away. I'm just like, well, as usual, these guys are just way smarter than I thought. Since Hootie won the episode 3 banning, he got to choose the teams for today. That's what we're doing this season. Whoever wins the banning or previous week's banning gets to make the teams if it's a team challenge. And he chooses a really strong team of Settled, arguably the best Gilligesser player we've had, and Solo Mission, maybe the best ever player that's played Gielinor Games. So going into it, that is a very, very strong team. The other teams, we have Framed, Eviescape, and Roydy on Team Stupid Morons. We have Foe, Victim, and West Ham on Team Bodhi. We have Bodhi, Zoe, Mr. Mammal on Mammal's Waxed Hair. And we have Sea Engineer, MMORPG, and Torvesta on Team Sir Strumming. So the fun thing about these team names was I let all of them choose a team name, and then they had to send it to me. And going into this, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to include the team names in the episode. I might just call them Team 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But then the team names were just really funny. I mean, we have one team literally called the Tribunal. So if they don't get into the Tribunal, it's like, it's a big embarrassment in a sense, right? We have Team Stupid Morons, which is just funny. We have Team Bodhi, and Bodhi's not even on Team Bodhi. Mammal's Waxed Hair. We have Team Sir Strumming, which is a rotting fish that's eaten in Sweden. Like, just the names were so funny. So when I was editing the episode, I'm like, I have to keep these team names in. And while, you know, they weren't necessarily a focal point of the episode, I think it was just funny for you guys, and it was funny for me to just see those names pop up. And it did, I guess, in a sense, help keep track of who was ahead and who was behind at one point. But it did actually confuse me during the filming when I kept having to call out Team Bodhi, and I realized Bodhi was not on Team Bodhi. Like, it threw me for a loop constantly when we were filming this episode. But yeah, the team names were, I think, a nice little touch. Something interesting that happens in this episode is obviously Hootie is very close with Eviescape. You could argue that they are one of the tightest alliances in the season. They're both from Australia. They're very good friends, and they said in episode 1 that they're going to be really close until later in the season when Eviescape plans on backstabbing him. But it looks like Hootie does the backstabbing a little bit earlier because he decides to not have Eviescape on his team for a challenge where he's able to pick teams. Instead, Hootie goes with you could argue the smarter play and goes for maybe one of the stronger hide and seek players in Settled to have on his team and solo missions. So that is interesting. And then not only does he not pick Eevescape to be on his team, he puts him on a team with Framed, who you could say is Eevescape's rival. Framed and Eevescape have always had a little back and forth ever since season 2, and now he puts him on the same team for hide and seek, which is I just found absolutely hilarious. So shout out Hootie for creating a good bit of content there. Gilligesser in season 2 was simply running to find where I was and trading me. In season 3, it was the same thing until the final round where we decided to do it on a PvP world. Now in season 4, I thought to myself, let's try to change it up a little bit. Let's try to evolve the game somehow. And what's a great, easy way to evolve the game? Well, hide in areas that require items to get to me. And that's what we did, I think, for 4 of the locations, where if you want to get to me, you need to, for example, in the round 1 of the location number 1, I was hiding over at the waterfall where you start the waterfall quest. I'm behind the rock there. What do you need to do to get to me? You need a rope. So a lot of players teleported in and were like, hold on, wait a second. Do you need a rope to get there? Immediately, a bunch of people teleported out. Some people ran and tried to swim across like Torvesta, and there ended up being the really funny scene of him swimming, and he was the first one to me, but he fell, so he couldn't trade me. Whereas most other people had to, talk with their team and talk where are we going to get the ropes, right? Some people went to Ned in Edgeville. I think actually that's where most people went. Some people went to Ardoyne to buy ropes from the Ardoyne general store. So this was really fun for me because one thing I wanted to do was, have teamwork involved. This is obviously a team challenge, and yes, you can call out to your teammates where the location is. But for the most part, it would be a solo game in the sense of, yeah, you teleport there and run there. But now the teamwork has to come in with, hey, are you buying all the ropes for the teams and you can just trade us, or we all go get our own ropes and stuff like that? So the teamwork aspect was definitely elevated with this new change and this new evolution of needing an item to come find me. Now, not every location required an item to get to me. I mean, the second location was the one where it was the cross in the snow. Now, the only reason I did this one is because it's just kind of really out there in the middle of nowhere. You never have to come here for anything, I believe. This is mainly just an Easter egg that's in the game right now. So the fact that people were able to find me so quickly has definitely surprised me. But it's an interesting location because it could be in multiple areas in the game. And what I found really interesting about this episode, or about this location in particular, was everybody was talking about the tint of the snow, right? And the way the snow looks. Oh, this has to be around wintertime because of the way the snow looks. And it made me realize that there's a lot of areas in the game with snow, but they're right. There's a lot of the snow just looks different in different places, right? The snow here looks a bit different than the snow up at DKS, right? In Relica and stuff. So that I always enjoy small aspects of the game like that I don't necessarily notice until they're brought up by the competitors in the show, which I really found funny. This location was also great because communication played another big part in it. There's a lot of paths that go north, east, south, and west out of the Wintertodt camp, and the location I was at specifically had them going in a very unique path northwest to this cross, and some teams really struggled finding it. I mean, there's a whole funny scene of Roydy being completely lost and Framed and Eevescape trying to tell him how to get there, and it was really, really funny. So the third location is the Boots of Lightness area in the Temple of Ikoff. This required a light source to get to me, so the teams had to figure out how to get a candle, how to get a lantern. Settled, of course, goes for the candor and headgear, which was super smart, and we had some funny moments in that. In the fourth location, this one was really funny because technically you don't need an item to get to me. You can just use an ectophile, then run south, but everybody realizes that the 10K is used for the boat from Port Fat Asmus to Sleep, and it's the quickest way to get to the area I was hiding, which is the stained glass window. Now, two things about this. One, I found it absolutely hilarious that Sea Engineer and Eevescape had been sending each other hide-and-seek pictures to practice for Gielinor games, and they sent each other this exact picture of this stained glass window, which is hilarious. But what makes it even better is that they weren't even the first ones to me. Of course, it's settled, right? It's the swamps, and of course his team's gonna win. But it was so funny because Eevee's so excited and so happy that he knows where this is, and then Settled ends up winning, and it was just a really funny moment. The other really thing about this location is I already talked about this in the blooper episode for the season on my main channel, but I'll bring it up again here for you guys who didn't hear about this or watch it. So going into this round, every single round, everybody needed to replenish everything in their inventory. So the cash stack being 10K, like any jewelry charges that were very low, I told them all to recharge everything or just kind of restock and refresh everything. Now, Bodhi doesn't do this, and he ends up having a cash stack below 10K. So him having a cash stack below 10K means that if he were to teleport into Port Fat Ass Smith with his ectophile, he wouldn't be able to take the boat to sleep, which costs 10K because he didn't have enough. Actually, this happens to Framed in the episode where Frame tries using the boat, but he doesn't have 10K, so he can't. So he has to teleport back to a bank, get the money, and then go back, and that costs his team points. Bodhi was in the same boat until the craziest thing ever happens where Bodhi gets a random event. He gets a random event, I believe it was Niles or Piles, whatever that guy is called. And the random event ends up giving him money that puts his cash stack above 10K, which is absolutely insane. I don't think Bodhi even noticed or realized this, but when I was editing this, I was like, oh my God, can you imagine if they had actually known where the location was? What's so unfortunate is that Bodhi's team was the only team that didn't know where this was. Zoe, Mammal, and Bodhi were the only people who didn't know where it was. However, if they instantly knew where it was and they all teleported with their ectophile and they all took the boat worth 10K, they probably will place maybe first or middle of the pack, and those extra points that they would have gotten actually would have won them this challenge because of how the points worked for the rest of the round. So if they had just, one of them had known where this was and they had gotten an extra 10 points, maybe even less, they actually win this entire challenge. And then Team Tribunal doesn't win, and then we don't have that crazy moment in the Tribunal later. So again, I don't know what you call a situation like this, some type of fallacy, who knows, butterfly effect type deal, but it could have been one of the craziest things in Gielinor Games history where a random event completely changes the outcome of the episode, and it almost happened in this one. So that is, to me, is one of my favorite ever Gielinor Games fun facts, and now you guys know about it too if you didn't already. My jaw dropped when I realized that for the first time. But yeah, anyways, so that location is done. Heading into the final location, it was crazy because every single person thought that Team Tribunal had been walking away with it at this point, and they, in a sense, were. It wasn't over yet, but that team had done so well. Settled Solo Mission and Hootie had done so well up until this point that everybody was just kind of saying it was over. I mean, in the call, I think some people were just like, can we just end it now? We already know they've won. I of course, said, guys, it's not over yet, I promise. But even I, in my mind, was thinking, yeah, they probably walk away with this at this point. However, the worst thing happens for them. The final location is a location that they just do not know. The location is the nest in the Zenaris Black Dragon dungeon, which you go to during Recipe for Disaster. And this was hilarious because this nest is an exact replica of the one in the Woodcutting Guild where you turn in your god eggs for nests. Now, technically, the one in the Woodcutting Guild is the replica of the one, or the same one as the one in the Black Dragon dungeon in Zenaris, because that was there originally. That was the first one that they had there. So it was really funny to see everybody go to the Woodcutting Guild. What was even funnier is Framed didn't have the Hasidius favor to enter the Woodcutting Guild. He had never done it on his main account. And he's DMing in our Gielinor Games Discord going like, this isn't fair. I can't get in. Like, I don't have it done. This isn't fair. Until he realizes and his team realizes that isn't the spot. And then you can slowly see him deleting messages in Discord being like, I can't get to it. And instead he just deletes all of it because he realizes it's not the spot. It was the funniest thing ever as I was waiting for people to find me and just seeing those messages go through. So yeah, people realize it's not the Woodcutting Guild, and then Mammal instantly realizes that it's the Black Dragon dungeon spot in Zenaris, and that Team Mammal's Waxed Hair puts together a fantastic round and makes it to me, and then the rest of the teams come in one by one. The Team Tribunal, Hootie, Soul Mission, and Settled take forever, and they come in last and only get, I think, 2 points or something, or 3 points. Very few points, which is the worst case scenario. At this point in the episode, I am beginning to get a headache. Now, one thing I didn't tell you guys at the very start of this video is that we went into this challenge not knowing where West Ham was. I believe West Ham had fallen asleep, and we had tried for a long time to schedule this day for everybody to be on to film this episode, and we can't find West Ham. And I was so sad because it was the hide and seek day, but I told myself that I'm not going to have subs on this season. We have to have everybody be on who's actually on the show. And I just told everybody, listen guys, let's let's give him 25 minutes. If he doesn't show up, we'll just have to cancel the filming for the day. I'm sorry. And what ended up happening is we somehow managed to contact a person who lived close to West Ham, or his roommate or something. He went and like banged on West Ham's door to his apartment, I believe, and it woke him up, which then got West Ham to hop on, and we were then able to film the episode. So this episode almost didn't even happen in the first place. And it does manage to happen, which I was so relieved about, but I was so stressed out that we weren't going to be able to film that day. Again, it's so hard to get these filming sessions to happen. And I was really sad because I was like, I'm going to have to schedule a whole new day, a whole new session to film this. But he ends up showing up, which was great. And then, we're about an hour and a half, 2 hours into the session at this point. I just really want it to be over because, well, I try to limit the sessions to 2 hours in general. So we're already pretty deep into recording. Now, what made this episode take even longer to finish is that the point totals were so close. I mean, guys, the point totals were absolutely insane. I had to recalculate the points 4 or 5 times just to make sure that the point totals were exactly correct, because I could not believe how close the top 3 teams were. Unfortunately for Team Bodie and Team Surstrumming, they were the bottom 2 teams. They weren't that close, but the top 3 teams were so close. All of them were within 4 points, I believe, something along those lines. Super, super close. And the top 2 teams were within a single point. What are the chances that in a challenge like this, where everybody can place in a different spot and the points are all over the place, that 2 of the teams, when you add up all their points, have a total that's within 1 of one another? And this stressed me out because this means I had to go back, like I said, 2-3 times, recalculate all the points just to make sure I had gotten this right. Now, when I realized I had gotten it right and this was actually the case, the producer in me just went crazy, because how cool is that in a challenge like this, it comes down to a single point. I mean, that is just thrilling. That is so exciting. And I was really, really excited to announce the results. The teams couldn't believe it. I mean, they could not believe that the totals were so close. Team Mammal's Waxed Hair comes within a hair of winning, and like I said, they could have won today if it wasn't for that really unfortunate round number 4 where they got last. But it's kind of a hindsight thing. I mean, you can say, yeah, that team got last, they should have won, but it's all in hindsight. But it really truly was unfortunate for them. And now we have Team Stupid Moron versus Team Tribunal, and this is crazy because the Tribunal could be Framed, Eevescape, and Roidy, or Solo Mission Settled and Hootie. And that Tribunal is very interesting either way. So the fact it comes down to 1 point between those 2 teams is absolutely crazy. Does Team Tribunal, with the name Team Tribunal, not make the Tribunal, which is hilarious? They do. They actually do make the Tribunal over TSM. And unfortunately for Team Stupid Moron, they're now up for elimination, whereas Solo Mission gets his first one of the season, Hootie gets his first one of the season, and Settled wins his 3rd straight. So at this point, big play again from Settled, who is having a huge season at this point. I know Solo Mission is super relieved to finally be in the Tribunal, and it's great to see a rookie get into the Tribunal as well. And Hootie has had a great season up until this point. He wins a banning. Next episode, he's in the Tribunal. So I was really excited for that Tribunal call to happen. So Tribunal call time. This is where things start to get really, really crazy. And I'm just, this makes me giddy thinking about it. I genuinely rewatch the Twitch VOD of this episode and the Tribunal call like once a week minimum. It just makes me so happy. It's one of my favorite moments of the show. So at this point in the episode, we have 12 people up for elimination and we have 3 people safe: Solo Mission, Hootie, and Settled. Those 3 now go into a call. They go to the Tribunal, they go to the chamber to make a decision on who they want to send into the banning. Now, this is just, I don't know, thinking back to this is just crazy, because when they hop into that call, the consensus at the end is that they are voting for a farmer. They want to vote for a farmer. They want to get a farmer out, and they agree on Roidy. Now, I'm in that call. I believe Allie is in that call as well. If you guys don't know, Allie is somebody who helps produce the show. She was in all the Tribunal calls, and we went out of there being like, okay, Roidy is going into the banning today. I mean, I had no idea. I genuinely had no idea what was about to happen. I think all of them thought that Roidy was going to go in as well. I did, Allie did, all the 3 except for potentially Solo Mission, who had something up his sleeve. So we all head back into the call. I start to ask them who they want to send in. I say, Hootie, who do you want to send in and why? And this was super, super funny because the way Hootie responds is hilarious. He goes, we, and then he actually realizes that it's an individual vote, and he goes, I am voting for Roydy. You know, the farmers are too big of a lines to have in. They're going strong, and we need to get one of them out of there. And it's really funny because I don't think this is in the episode, but you hear Fo has a little voice line at this point where he goes, well, the farmers aren't even aligned at this point. He says that in the background. I remember it was really funny. But everybody still thought they were together, like I've said multiple times. So Hootie casts the vote on Fo. Now, something I've seen a lot of people say throughout the season is that there was a specified order of who I asked for their vote. Some people said that based on how they performed, that's who I asked. And what I mean by that is, why did I ask Hootie first? Why did I ask Solo Mission second? Why did I ask Settled third? To be honest with you, I never really had... there was never a reason. I just kind of looked at the call, and the person whose name I saw first from the tribunal that day, I just asked who they want to vote for. I never really myself figured out a correct way to ask them. I could have done it, I guess, based on performance, but I never even thought about it at the time. So I just see Hootie first, and then this is it. This is where the biggest thing happens. If I don't ask Solo Mission second, this entire section, this entire part of the episode never happens. He thinks I'm going to ask Settled second. If I ask Settled for his vote second, Settled's going to vote for Roydy. That's would have been the case. And then at that point, Solo Mission was going to vote for Eviescape. So that way he didn't have to vote for a farmer. And then in the future, if there was ever a farmer in the tribunal, Solo Mission could have said, hey, I didn't vote for you when I could have. So that would have kind of been some favor he would have gotten back. But for some reason, I guess maybe there was or the RuneScape gods were looking down on us that day because, we had all stayed strong and woken West Ham up. Again, the fact that West Ham showed up that day and then this moment happens, I don't know. Maybe there is a RuneScape god watching this show. Who knows? But I decide to ask Solo Mission second. And now Solo Mission, being the absolute content legend machine that he is, says, you know what? I'm going to listen to the devil on my shoulder. And even though I was only going to vote for Eviescape if I was the third vote, I'm going to try to play it safe. I'm going to see if this works out, and I'm going to vote for him second. And then, oh, Lord, have mercy, Settled comes in hot. And it was so funny because he said this in his review. He'll tell you if you ever ask him in a Twitch chatter or a YouTube comment or something. But I remember in the call that he was laughing so hard because when he realized what Solo Mission did, he immediately, I think, knew that he was going to vote for Eviescape. I mean, this is what I mean by understanding the assignment of being on the show. Obviously, the safer thing for him to do would have been to vote for Roydy, but for him to now turn around and vote for Eviescape is just insane content and just super entertaining. And he knows that it's going to be a shock moment, a shock value moment on the show, and it absolutely was. When I watch the Twitch VOD of this episode and I look at the Twitch chat, I mean, I'll put it on screen right now of the Twitch chat when he announces his vote for Eviescape. I mean, it just goes absolutely insane. And this is what I mean by potentially being one of the greatest moments of Gielinor Games history, is that this is where finally there's a split vote and it absolutely bangs. I mean, every single comment I've seen about this is people being like, oh my God, that was one of the best sequences ever. We have, I don't know, just everything about that scene works for me. We have the culmination, the build up to that final third vote from Settled. There's just like this dramatic music playing in the background. Confessionals from everybody are perfect, hyping the moment up. Settled has this great confessional where he goes like, and once I realized what, Solo Mission was doing, I had the opportunity to do the funniest thing ever. And there's just this, oh man, like I tell you what, guys, like that, I'm actually almost tearing up, honestly, thinking about it. Like that to me is what I had envisioned in a Gielinor Games season and in this format, right? Because I had wanted there to be split votes, and for it to finally happen in this episode and for it to happen the way that it did, just I'm just so, again, you guys probably hear, I probably sound like a Solo Mission confessional right now. I just sound like I'm smiling like I'm talking because I am, because it made me so happy. You guys might think I'm weird for nerding out like that, but I genuinely was. For that split vote to happen, I mean, unreal. To go out of the tribunal call thinking that it's going to be Roydy, and then it ends up being somebody else, to the surprise of almost every single person, was amazing. And then, cherry on top, to top it all off, Eviescape immediately calls out Frame to go against. I mean, there wasn't even a tick between him realizing that he got chosen to then calling out Frame to go against. And again, this is why I personally think Eevescape is such a legend on the show. I mean, I know he likes to play the villain role, and I know a lot of people see him as one, but he plays it so damn well. And for him just to say, screw picking somebody who I think I can beat, I'm going to go for my rival. I'm going to go for somebody who I want to knock out of the game, who's a strong player. I'm going to go for Framed. Let's grudge match this, right? For him to instantly call him out, I mean, just that minute is just insane. Absolutely insane. I mean, like I said, I rewatch it so often, and you guys, I'm hoping, when you saw that happen in the episode, were just also as excited as I was. So I could talk about that forever, honestly. I just like it so much. So, I mean, when I tell you that the Discord call, when that happened, was like, oh my God, like there was just craziness in the call and people were like, holy shit, that was absolutely insane. Just unreal, absolutely unreal. So everybody needs a moment to regain their breath. My headache's gone at this point because I'm so excited and so happy of what just happened from a production standpoint. And now I have to announce a really great banning in Hoarder. Eevescape and Framed. Framed has indirectly or directly knocked out Eevescape in the past 2-3 seasons, I believe. And now they have to go in 1v1 in one of my favorite bannings, which is Hoarder. Hoarder is obviously a banning that came into the show last year, where you start on a fresh account and you have to fill up your bank with as many unique bank slots as possible. Last year, it was between Eevescape and Ditterbitter. Eevescape won, knocked him out. It actually went to overtime last year, where Eevescape, we had to go to an overtime, and he ended up knocking out Ditterbitter. And in this season, Eevescape is back. So the fact that Eevee's going into this with experience is helpful, except for the fact that we're doing this in a different location. We're doing this in Ardoyne. They're both starting in Ardoyne, the center of Ardoyne this time, instead of Lumbridge. So while Eevescape's experience does help him, for example, with the charter ships, it doesn't help him because, well, it's a new area, and he doesn't, of course, know exactly where every single spawn is. But again, Framed is arguably one of the best ever players to do it. I mean, the dude has been, spoiler alert, obviously at this point, but he's been to 2 finals back to back, or no, 3 finals. Look, even I forget how amazing he is. He was in the season 1, he was in the season 3 and season 4 final. I mean, that dude is just arguably one of the best players on the show. And he's incredibly smart, super, super good at the game. Eevescape is in the same boat. While he hasn't made it to finals, he's a super, super good player. He is really good at Gielinor Games challenges. So this is like a Clash of the Titans type deal. It was really, really exciting for them to see what would happen, or for us to watch in the Discord as it was going on. Now, the banning starts, and it looks like Eevescape's going to take it home because he starts off really hot. He gets those charter ship items right away. He gets some other items around the game right away as well. And at the halfway point, I think 7.5 minutes in, he has like a 7 or 8 item lead. It's really hard to find a large amount of items at the end of a route like this, when usually you go for them at the beginning because you want to knock out a bunch of items right away. It's really hard to find an area that has a bulk of items for you to buy out towards the end of a route. However, that's exactly what happens because Framed realizes, I think with like 3 or 4 minutes left, that the Gnome Stronghold has a ton of items in the food shop up there. The Hudos food shop, they're like 1 to 2 GP each. And he has some GP on him at this point. He originally, I believe, was going to try to pickpocket a man for a long time for more GP, but he decides to change his course and run up towards Gnome Stronghold. He buys out that shop. I think he gets like 15 to 20 items, and that was the difference maker. I mean, it made a huge difference. Ends up beating Eevescape by, what was it, 3 items, I believe? Made a massive difference, and that was it. I mean, just like that, Eevescape calls out Frame to go against him. Frame takes him out. That's why this format to me was just... There was the chance and opportunity for it to be so exciting. I mean, calling somebody out only for them to beat you is like brutal. And it happens in this episode in, well, I'm going to use this word again, in the most brutal way possible. Eevescape goes in off the burn vote from Solo Mission. He calls out his rival to go against, and he ends up getting knocked out by his rival. I mean, as much as entertaining as it was for the viewers and for, everybody on the show, you have to feel for Eevescape. I mean, there's no way he should have gone out in this episode. He's got his best friend, his tight ally, Hootie, in the tribunal. He's very certain he's not going to go in. He's also tight with solo mission, ends up getting turned around. He goes in, calls out his rival, gets eliminated. I mean, that is absolutely brutal. Just like that, the 4th episode is over. We lose Eevescape, what I would say is a shock elimination. I don't think anybody expected him to leave. Based on what kind of happened after the challenge and the tribunal and everything, it was just an absolutely crazy day. And again, I just want to reiterate, this episode made me so happy because I had gone into this season hoping there would be some instances of a split vote, maybe voting somebody in who didn't want to get voted in. That happens today, right? We have the first non-split tribunal vote, which was absolutely amazing. The challenge coming down to a single point in Gielinor, which is one of Ray's favorite challenge. It was just, everything worked out so well in this episode. And the craziest thing is that it almost didn't even happen because West Ham almost slept in and didn't show up. And then also we had Bodhi not knowing the location, the Bodhi's team not knowing the location for the 4th round, meaning that they didn't win, and then that whole tribunal section wouldn't have happened. And again, this episode just blew me away. On a side note, something that I really spend a lot of time doing when editing the episodes is adding the music, because I truly believe that the music is really what makes the show. It adds to the intensity, to the drama, makes things exciting, makes things really funny. And I just thought the music was really good in this episode, and that's one thing I was just really proud of. The, hype leading up to the announcement of the tribunal vote, to the announcement of the banning results. The ending song was one of my favorite ending songs. If there was ever an episode to rewatch, and if there was ever an episode I would recommend to people if they want to watch like a single episode of the show, it would be probably episode 1. But this would be the other episode where I'd be like, yeah, definitely check this out if you're interested in checking out Gielinor Games. So we are down to 14 heading into episode 5. We lose Eevescape. We have the solo mission stressing a little bit now based on what happened. Settled's win streak continues. Bodhi saying he's going to come after Settled now because Settled's winning so much. Really left on a really good cliffhanger. And again, just a perfect ending to a perfect episode. As much as I would have liked to see Eevescape go longer, again, he is all about entertainment and content for the show, and I think he would have it no other way based on just how much entertainment value this episode provided. Anyways, obviously, this is one of my favorite episodes of all time. I was just gushing about it this entire review, and I'd love to know what you guys thought about it. Did you guys also enjoy? I hope you did. I'm sure you did. If you guys are fans of the show and fans of this format or this season, I feel like I have no doubt that you did enjoy. But as usual, please leave me your thoughts on the comments, or on the comments, on your comments and thoughts on this episode down below, and I will happily and gladly read through them like I always do. Okay, a couple things now to end out this video. Number 1, Gielinor Games 5 is officially announced now. There's no release date for it because we haven't filmed it yet, but I am putting the cast together. The format is now officially done and locked in. I believe I have 12 out of 20 cast members confirmed now as well, so we're filling in the final slots until filming begins. Now, one thing I'm trying to do better this time around is to get more people involved in helping. Usually I try to do everything myself, but I don't think I can handle it this time around. Thankfully, I added Allie last year as almost a full-time helper, and she was immense, and I really would like to get some more people involved as well this time. And something I'm looking for is if there's any artists out there who will potentially be interested in trying to mock up some graphics for me. As you guys know, Gielinor Games has a different theme each season. Last season, the theme, of course, was purple. We had the purple confessional backgrounds. We had the purple graphics and everything. And this upcoming season, I'm not going to spoil the color theme just yet, but you might get an idea based on the colors on the tweet I put out, or blue sky I put out about the cast list. This is a lovely little light blue color. But I'm looking for somebody to come up with maybe a couple mock-ups and sketches of how the graphics could look. So if anybody's interested in doing that, it's a paid opportunity. I happily will pay you for that. And if you guys made it this far, that means I hope that you are fans of the show and kind of know what I'd be looking for. Of course, we can talk more about it in a DM. So my Discord DMs are open. My Twitter DMs, my Blue Sky DMs are open as well. So please shoot me a message on any of those and we can talk. Second thing, in honor of this review, I will be doing a RuneScape hide and seek, aka a Gielinor live stream with 20 locations for you guys to all participate in. As you guys know, it's my favorite thing to do, the hide and seek episodes, and I figured I would do some hide and seek streams for all of you guys to participate in as well. We do a little GP prize at the end of every round for whoever finds me first. So if you guys have ever wanted to participate in Gielinor game style RuneScape hide and seek, I'll be doing it tomorrow, and by tomorrow I mean January 30th, around maybe 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time, maybe a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier. It's going to be live on this YouTube channel as well as my Twitch stream. So if you guys would like to follow along on any of those, make sure to subscribe to this channel or follow me on Twitch, and you can be notified when that live stream goes live. Last time we did it, we had like hundreds of people playing. It was really, really fun, and I just have an absolute blast doing it. So hopefully I'll see you guys there. If you would like to see these episodes before anyone else, make sure to subscribe to my Patreon. For just a couple of bucks a month, you can support my content, get access to a bunch of behind the scenes Gielinor Games footage, and you get to hear me read your name out loud in these videos. To my Dragon Tier legends, Alderon, Alec, Caroline, Flamo, Jason, Joel1330, Josh, Katie, Kitten Robber, Lacey, Mookow, Mr. Monotone, Nico, Rayman, MP, and the Owl 909. To my Rune Tier kings and queens like Clay, Jenedy, Please Load Now, and Sweezbees. To my Adamant Tier lovers like ASDF, Photos, Rachel, and Spritz. I'll see all of you in the next upload, which will hopefully be very, very soon.